Alice Walker first earned critical acclaim for her Pulitzer Prize-winning novel, The Color Purple. Her best-selling novels also include The Temple of My Familia, Possessing the Secret of Joy, and By the Light of My Father's Smile. Her work has been defined by her revealing insights on race, spirit, love, and sexuality. The Way Forward is With a Broken Heart is her latest work of fiction. It is a collection of autobiographical short stories. In the collection, she examines the different types of loves and relationships that shape our lives. The book opens with a retelling of her 10-year marriage and subsequent divorce. I am pleased to have her back at this table. Welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Was this hard to write?
The first section was hard because it's a memoir of my marriage to my daughter's father, and that was very difficult. But it needed to be done, and so I gave myself a lot of time to think about it and then to write it.
You always refer to him as my daughter's father, or never by his name. Why is that?
Because I respect his privacy, and because that is the true connection, that he was my young husband and he is the father of my child.
Is that divorce, you think, the most difficult thing you've been through, the most painful?
Well, no, I don't think so, but I think it was one of the most painful. I think what I especially did not like at all was losing his friendship. I could live very well without the marriage. In fact, I found marriage rather trying after a while because it wasn't free. But losing his friendship was very, very difficult.
What also comes through in this is the impact of Martin Luther King on your life.
Yes. I loved him very much, and in the civil rights movement, he was an inspiration to me because he told us, those of us who had traditionally run away from the South, that we should go home, that we should stop running. And so I didn't want to run back to Georgia to settle, but I decided I'd run back to Mississippi because it was still the South, but not so close to my parents who would be worried about my life. So, because he did those things, because he said, go home, because he said, be fearless and loving, because he said, I'd rather be dead than live in fear. He was quite a remarkable spirit.
In Aurelia and John, tell me about the relationship there.
Aurelia and John is a wonderful example of how many trials and tribulations we go through in a relationship, and how there are these pauses when you feel that the thing is just dead as, you know, a doornail, and then you live through that somehow or other, and you come out on the other side, and often the relationship is strengthened, and it's more vibrant, and you're higher up on the spiral. And that has happened to me in every relationship I've ever had. I mean, they've died. And then I listened to Clarissa Pinkola Estes, you know, and she teaches that that is the thing you have to do. Let the thing die. Let it die so that it can come to life again. If you don't let it die, it lives a kind of half-death anyway, you know, and it's kind of dragging. But if you just say, okay, the thing is gone, sometimes it will just start very small, and you'll see that it's still there.
Big sister, little sister.
Big Sister, Little Sister is one of the stories that examines the relationship between a big sister and a little sister, and shows how, you know, sometimes in our families we seem to be the chosen. And I think in some ways in my family I was perceived as the chosen, partly because I was so oblivious to the things that would trap me. And I was also so interested in other worlds in literature, the worlds that I could get into, you know, so that I could be actually like the woman in the story, washing dishes, scrubbing floors, doing all the horrible, you know, boring tasks. But because I was also reading Jane Eyre, it didn't matter.
You're the little sister.
I'm the little sister. Yes, yes I have.
And this is how it happened.
This is how it happened. That's about becoming aware that women are also very, very sexy and very wonderful, and that it's possible to have relationships of substance with women. But going to a very dykey kind of place for the first time and being completely shocked that there are all these women with each other. and also that there were all these people that I thought were men, but, you know, I don't know, maybe they weren't. I mean, I would always say to whoever I was with, well, what are these men doing here? They would say, what men? So, you know, it's a big mystery.
When was this?
When was what?
When did you go to these places, and when did you discover this?
Oh, I don't know, 10 years ago. You know, I started to be very curious about what was going on, you know.
Nothing before then?
No, I had no idea.
Was
I was
this
such
like an
awakening? Yeah, it was. But fascinating. I mean, I'm totally interested in what people are doing with their lives. I mean, how do we live? How do we choose to live, you know, in this body, on this earth, at this time? It's the only time we'll be like this, you know? And it's very interesting to just see how people choose to live their lives. And when they can be free and do it, you know, freely and happily, it is just such a pleasure.
I was talking to a friend of mine whose former girlfriend is now engaged in a relationship with a woman, and I said, did you know that she is a lesbian? I said. He said, I don't think she is. I think she just happens to be, at this moment, in love with a woman, and a prior moment was in love with a man.
Exactly. These labels are so clunky and clumsy, and they don't really fit because we keep moving. The only label that
Where do you move from here?
Well, I was going to tell you because I knew the label thing was going to surface here. I just had that feeling. And I wanted to say that, you know, I've really thought about the label thing because people, you know, have tried to label me this and label me that, and they don't fit. I mean, it's not that I am hostile, you know, about it, but they just don't fit. And so I will accept the label of being called whole, W-H-O-L-E, and the other label that I like is sacred. Those are labels that I will accept.
Sacred because?
Because I am a human being and because my life is precious.
And whole because?
And whole because I love people. I love the spirit of the people. And I'm not, I don't seem to have much prejudice.
Well, in fact, you... that's worth... You dedicate this book to, guess who?
The American race.
The American race.
Well, because you see, right alongside the America that is so contentious and factional and prejudiced and racist and, you know, saying that you have to live over there and I can't live with you and da-da-da-da. Throughout our history, actually, there have been all these lovers. And one of the reasons I wanted to write about my marriage was that we were a part of that stream of people. We were lovers. I mean, the marriage ended, but marriage is in, you know. So I am saying that we can decide to be really happy that we have ancestors who were loving people and who loved each other across gender and race and, you know, all those other things, class. And so that is why there is, in my opinion, the possibility. And I think, you know, history and the future will prove this, that there will be an American race. And that will be a race of people who feel that they are just Americans and free to love each other.
And then also there is, I want to just make sure we mention this, the Brotherhood of the Saved.
You read this. Oh.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I'm pleased.
Tell me about the Brotherhood of the Saved and about religion.
Well, my mother, just before she died, had embraced a very conservative religion. We needn't go into specifics, but a very fundamental one. And this was very hard for me, very difficult. And I had to really work with her about this because, you know, the religion says that, you know, certain people, you know, are guilty of certain horrible crimes and therefore you cannot really be close to them. And then certain people are loving the wrong people. You know, and I had to sit her down many times before she died and say to her, you know, this is like a koan. I mean, is it really possible to love the wrong person? I mean, is it really? And that kept her really perplexed for, you know, a couple of days. Yeah. So what I'm doing in this story, and this is a fictional account because it you know, it revives both my mother and my father. They've been dead many years. But this is their spirit. This is their essential spirit in this story. because I will not rest, I think, until I bring some kind of harmony to my relationship with them. And so that they can understand that in all of my changes, all of my complexity, you know, in all of my craziness, I am still essentially the spirit that they brought into the world. And so that is what's happening there. And to do that, I had to take a character who's very much like I was many years ago, and a character very much like my parents, my mother, and her friends. And I take these older women to a porn flick. I take them to see Deep Throat. Because I want them to understand that the worry that they have about homosexuality, you know, about women being with women, men being with men, is so tame compared to what is happening to the spirit and the body of people in the culture. This is a whole area that I think many fundamentalists have never looked at. I mean, they don't know what the pornography in this country is doing to the spirits of people. You know, I mean, just the stuff that, quote, everybody, you know, mostly men, go to see, like Deep Throat. It's a very difficult and horrible film.
What's it doing to us, you think?
I think it is making us so hard and less tender, and I think that it is killing certain kinds of intimacy. It is making sex seem like something that you just perform. It is taking it out of its context. It is making it much less holy, you know, which it really is essentially, or can be.
This book is called The Way Forward is with a Broken Heart. Alice Walker, she ends this book in an epilogue about John F. Kennedy Jr. in the waters off of Martha's Vineyard.
Yes.
Why?
Well, he was someone that actually I hadn't paid much attention to, you know, once he grew up. I mean, I really literally thought of him as that little kid, you know, that we all saw saluting his father's casket. And of course, I held him in my heart in just that gesture. And then when when he died, I realized when I saw his photograph that he really looked very decent. He looked like a really decent young man. He had a really good face. He had really good eyes. And I realized that, you know, I kind of missed him. And it made me feel really suddenly my age and how, you know, we have grown up enduring all of these deaths. I mean, people that we know in our, you know, lives, and then people like that we don't know. We know them by their press, but the impact has been really devastating. It's been a very, very difficult 30 years or so. And that's part of why we're brokenhearted. And I wanted to say, too, about being brokenhearted, that not to fear it, because it's an honorable condition. We deserve our broken heart, and the broken heart gets bigger. And so that is the value of it.
It's okay to bear pain. It's okay to mourn.
Yes.
Thank you, Alice.
You're welcome.
The Way Forward is with a Broken Heart is the book by Alice Walker.